I'm Alan Zaitchik with Net Events TV, and I'm here today with Kowsik Guruswamy, the Chief Technology Officer for Menlo Security, one of the hottest startup companies in Silicon Valley. We're going to talk today about isolation technology and other ways of keeping enterprises safe. Kowsik, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let me start with the most obvious question. What does Menlo Security do?
So if you look at the risk that enterprises face, it's from web and email. And if you look at web and email, the primary risk comes from active content like attachments and Flash and websites that we go and visit. So the idea behind isolation is very simple. In order to eliminate the risk, let's just execute all of that away from the end user, far away in the cloud, but let the user still see whatever they need to see to get their work done. And do it in a way that doesn't affect their user experience.
That was exactly what I was going to ask. In the past, companies have tried technologies like proxy servers and other things, and the user experience was frankly terrible, and so employees learned how to go around their company's security. How do you solve that problem?
Yeah, you bring up a very good point. Security by shackles has never worked, right? So the more burden that we create to end users in the name of security, the more they go around the problem to get their job done. So the magic and the breakthrough behind Menlo is we're able to do this isolation in the cloud. A big chunk of the magic is figuring out how to make sure that the end user does not know that we're in the middle. So from a latency perspective, from an end user experience perspective, they just go about their business every day, but from a risk perspective, it's zero.
And so you protect against phishing attacks, you protect against corrupted documents. What other types of threats can companies count on Menlo Security to guard against?
The first couple of years when we started the company and we sort of built out the isolation platform, the focus was very much around the web. That includes things like malware, ransomware, and stuff like that. And early last year, we actually announced what we call the phishing isolation product, which effectively eliminates drive-by downloads and credential theft coming from phishing links on email.
So let's say I'm a chief security officer, and I hear about Menlo. How do I find out if you're going to work in my environment? What does it take to use your solution?
The beautiful thing about the software, it's in the cloud. So trying out the product from a pilot perspective or a broad-based deployment perspective is super easy because there is no software to install, there's nothing to put on the end user's machine. You simply direct the traffic to the isolation platform and you watch the risk go to zero. It's very, very easy to try it out.
So you've just added the new phishing product. What's next for you guys? Where do you go from here?
So for us, we believe that as an end user community, we've lost the privilege of connecting to the internet directly, period. The web has gotten incredibly risky, and in fact last year we published what we call a vulnerability report where we looked at the most famous 1 million websites and we did a bunch of analysis on it, and it turns out 46% are at risk. So if you connect to one of the famous news sites, just because it's famous doesn't make it automatically safer, right? So in that journey, we believe that isolating end users is the only way out. We cannot connect to the internet directly, and we're seeing examples of that in other countries. Singapore, for example, the government basically issued a mandate saying the government employees need to disconnect their computers from the internet. And we're seeing in other countries as well, and sort of there's a growing awareness that there is a problem. Existing solutions don't really address that, but isolation can definitely work. And so in that journey, we're adding web and email and attachment and a whole pile of other things in there. Again, the focus is taking the risk down to zero. I think philosophically that's the biggest thing that we're working on.
So we're having to assume, if I'm understanding you correctly, that every website you go to is potentially bad.
Correct.
And so therefore you should look at it from, I'm a Star Trek fan, from behind a force field.
Absolutely.
And, or the glove box that doctors use with infectious patients. So you're reaching through safely to manipulate that website, but then there's a pane of glass protecting you. You're seeing what's going on, but it can't touch you.
That's correct. It's exactly what you just described. It's isolation basically takes the risk and puts it away from the end user. And I think people have tried that before, right? People have tried that in terms of virtual desktop and other types of technologies. They've tried to apply that. But if you ask any end user to use like a virtual desktop over a VPN, they would rather be infected with malware than go through the horrific user experience of latency and pixelation and scrolling and all of that. So really, Menlo's isolation marries those two very powerful things, which is the promise of perfect security resulting from isolation, but doing it in such a way that the end user's experience does not change a bit.